decided to watch The Careless Years with Dean Stockwell. Literally the only reason I decided to watch this movie is because it was with Dean Stockwell. Turns out that it is directed by Arthur Hiller, who did Love Story. Okay, this is a lot earlier. This is 1957, and Love Story is 1970. And in the world of cinema and love stories, that is like night and day. Clearly, first of all, Hays Code, and second of all, 1970s is just completely a different world. Now, I didn't know about Arthur Hiller when I decided to watch the movie, but I think nobody else knew about Arthur Hiller either, because it was his first cinema. However, the first question is Dean Stockwell good in this movie? Yes. Second question is, did Arthur Hiller actually make more out of this movie than it could have been? I don't know. I didn't read the script. I didn't ask me at the time. I was minus I don't know how many decades old. So I would say probably yes. The story goes that he got the script, and he was first time directing a feature film, and they basically said, please do this movie, and he was like, I have a few notes. And then there's like, should I actually go and tell the producers, which in this case, a production company was Bryna Productions. Have you never heard of this? I have never heard of this. This is Kirk Douglas's production company, established in 1949. I don't know for how long it ran, but we know that Kirk Douglas made some independently produced films. And this was one of them. Certainly not the first, I wouldn't imagine, because this is 1957, so this is 8 years into that already. He signed both Dean Stockwell and Natalie Trundy to a 5-year contract, starting this movie. I don't know if Natalie Trundy did anything else with them, but Dean Stockwell made no other movies with this company. So even if you get a 5-year contract, that doesn't actually mean that you get to do anything. You might get, I suppose, pay wait money, which is, not bad. Dean was 17. No, Dean was 19. Natalie Trundy was 16 in this movie. So, what's this movie about? Well, sex. Or, more specifically, the wanting of having sex and the not being allowed to have sex, or knowing that it is a bad idea to have sex. Now, why would it be a bad idea to have sex? Possibly because people are too young, whatever. I won't judge. But in this case, mostly because it looks like there is no prophylactic?
This movie is from 57.
57.
And the...
Hays Code.
That also, but the actual medicine didn't come in until 63.
Yes, so here is, well, a little earlier than that, but here's the thing. My notes on this thing is, this entire movie would not have to happen if they had a condom. Did condoms exist? Yes. So, this movie is pretending condoms don't exist.
Hays Code.
Hays Code. And is it a good idea, Hays Code wise, to make a movie where your McGillicuddy is effectively, or your McGuffin is effectively a condom? Probably not.
No, maybe you're making a point. You're making a point.
This movie is making that point. It is saying, we are not living in the 1930s. We assume that the parents grew up in the 1930s and their worldview is from the 1930s. And now they have children who are, the top end of the teenage range in the 1950s. And you're saying they don't... This is the other McGuffin is chaperones. In the 1930s, they wouldn't be allowed to go to school together without chaperone. They wouldn't be allowed to spend time together without chaperone. In the 1950s, they have school dances. They go out to the beach after school. They are socializing constantly with each other because you have youth culture in the 1950s, which didn't exist in the 1930s. So the reason this film exists is the fact that 1957 exists and things had changed and people are going, what? What do we do now? Because we weren't raised to deal with this. Yes, we don't do that whole chaperoning thing anymore. But if we don't do that whole chaperoning thing anymore, then that means that the girls and the boys can get together and they might actually go do something. So now we have a nice girl, Emily, and a nice boy, Jerry, and they are trying to have a romance at, let's call it 16, 17, possibly 18, but they're in high school and he's preparing for university. She is actually being asked to go to university as well. She goes off that very quickly. She's like, well, I might as well just marry him and then,
make some babies.
Well, that's the problem, is the whole idea of you have sex, that means there are going to be babies. If you get married, that means there's going to be sex and that means there's going to be babies. So they're dealing with all they really want to do is fool around and have a little sex in a very nice, gentle relationship that is established as he's a nice guy, she's a nice girl. Everybody is willingly wonderful, nice. And they just have this problem. And he's doing all the right things because every time she says, "Oh, kiss, kiss, kiss," "Oh, we'd better not do anything further," he's fine. But well, he's not fine, but he's like, okay, he does it. He's respectful, as you say, like. But it just goes on and on and on. There's criticism over this movie that it was belaboring it and that it was rushing them through the relationship. No, it's not rush. It is at least 6 months going on. And then at some point he's just getting like, okay, let's just get married already. Because the parents leave her alone in the house for an overnight thing. Because they're always going to wherever it was that, parents go for the weekend. I don't know.
Have sex.
And well, I suppose so, because they're probably not doing it when they're at home. And everybody's a single child, of course. I don't really like scripts that postulate they're single children because we only have story for these two kids. No, kids aren't single kids. There are some, and then a lot of people have older siblings, younger siblings, this and that. Both. So I find that just limited writing, but that's just my little
Or maybe
beef.
they didn't want to clutter up the story too much.
Yeah, but there's like there's this one clutter person which may have been a remnant of either a younger brother possibly, or somehow there's this other guy that's in Jerry's house, other young man in Jerry's house that shares his room with him, and I think the intention is that it's some other kid that for some reason doesn't have his parents, but they never go into it. It makes no sense whatsoever. What?
Probably a cousin. So people you take in that are not your brother or sister.
But then the cousin's parents would have been like destitute or something like that, because the father, who just works as a factory worker, he gives Jerry money so that when he goes out with the other guy and they all go like in a group going out, that there's enough money for him to also have a little. It's just details like that. So either explain it or just don't put them in, because I'm confused now. And why do I care about this guy? Do I not care about this guy? Then for this entire thing, I was thinking maybe they're 18 or above. But by the time that they get to, they've already gone, oh, well, we might as well just get married then, because she refuses to let it go any further than still clothes on. Even when the parents aren't at home. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll marry you. And I'm going, well, that's romantic. Not.
Well, the situation is not exactly romantic.
No. So it's if you think this is like, oh, this is gonna be one of those Elvis Presley, everybody frolicking on the beach, lots of singing. No. Not happening. This is he would love to. It's from Jerry's perspective, and he would just love to have this wonderful relationship. The first scene you see is two young people physically frolicking on the beach, and then it pans up to where he's standing on top of the beach looking at them, and he would love to have that. That, by the way, is already the beginning of the movie, is the end of the movie, and the whole thing is almost the entire thing is a flashback, which I'm also not a fan of, that construct, but it's a construct.
He used it in
oh gosh, yes, but the book does it in Love Story, so it's legit in Love Story. In this one, I found no reference that it is other than this. Just was just a script that somebody had, and they wanted to make it. Now I really do think that they wanted to make a commentary on solve this problem, please. We either need the pill, but even better, condoms. And condoms existed. And this is not people who want to be having sex with all sorts of different people. They just want to further their relationship. And I suppose the whole thing is about, can you have sex before marriage? Is that even useful? This movie is basically saying, if you cannot have sex before marriage, if your society doesn't allow it, and how she was raised doesn't allow it, and if she's 16, I can understand that she is literally following what her parents have asked her to do, because she's a
good girl.
Yeah, it's just, unfortunately that is the only way to describe it. If you and the world is such that there's no real earthly reason to not to restrict sex before marriage. They're not saying that they're very religious. It's not about religion at all. No religion at any time. So it's like, what other reason would there still? How can you still continue to do this? It wasn't even about how young they are, because they decide to get married. He tells his dad. His dad is very disappointed, but he's like, okay, well, this is what you decided. She tells they come to tell her parents. They're not happy, but it doesn't sound like anybody can stop them. And eventually, he's just saying, okay, well, let's get they're gonna rent a room in a motel, which apparently for $70 a month. In 1957, I'd have to do the calcs. Maybe the calcs will appear here. I don't know. They can rent a place. They're not even of age, or of age. They're not 18, over 18. They're not 18. So I'm really confused. Also, the mother actually gave her sexual education of sorts, but she did. It's a discussion, a continuous discussion in every scene that the mother and Emily have. Is they talk about, it's more about, you're not having sex yet, right? And in other terminology, because the word sex is not really used. And then she says, no, Mom, of course not. I wouldn't do that. But then Emily's like, okay, but how am I to approach this? So it's very, very hard. Then there's once the marriage stuff is announced, from the parents are like, well, we'll take her away for the summer, haha. So it'll at least be 10 weeks away, and then it's just Jerry is just like, no, we're not doing that. Emily's quite happy to just do whatever the parents want, but then she's kind of also doing what he wants. She's 16. She has. There's so many opinions going around that I don't think she even gets a chance to figure out what her opinion is. So, and then he gets that motel. He steals the money from his dad, which is very sad because they're all very nice people. And then he gets a job, and the dad wants him. The dad has a speech with him about the Great Depression. He grew up in the Great Depression. He got himself a stable job at the factory, and he got a home, and he's like, you don't have to do this. There are no, the economy has changed so much that you, kid, do not have to go through this. If you go work in the factory now and you have a wife, that means you're gonna have a baby, da 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 da, and that's it. There's not he wants his son to have go to Caltech and do an engineering degree, and he kind of has the grades for it, but as the movie goes on, Jerry starts saying he doesn't have the grades because he's so preoccupied trying to juggle this relationship and school that the whole thing is just starting to fall apart. So basically everything falls apart. There's a by the time that Jerry gets the motel room organized, the dad comes to have his say. And there's literally a fist fight between the two. I don't think they would be filming it this way now. I mean, it's almost, you can't transpose this to now at all. Yes, you can if it is a religious. There's a religious aspect, but other than that,
pretty glad the 50s are not here anymore.
Yeah. There's a reason why 60s happened. And not just sexual revolution and flower power and make love not war and all of that, but also the feminist movement, because she is, like I said, I don't think she even knows what she wants, other than that he's a really nice guy and she would just love to enjoy the relationship, and this way it's not happening. Now then eventually, so they're standing there so you don't have to watch this movie anymore. in the motel room, and she sees that happening, the fist fight, and she says, "I'm going home. This is not working." It's like, oh, finally. Maybe she needed to make a decision because, everybody took her power of decision making actually away, and then there's so many people who have so many desires and wants and needs. She's trying to cater to all of them, and now she's just saying, "I quit. I'm out. This is not working for me." They were willing to give up university education. They were willing to get married. They were willing to create a life, even though we weren't 18 yet. Literally, they were willing to do everything that you could possibly ask of young people in order to just leave us alone so we can just have a little sex here. So glad that we don't have to do that anymore in most countries. Then there is once the marriage is called off by Emily, he walks out, she walks out, everybody walks out, and he claims the whole world stinks. And I think that is basically the one line that effectively is saying what the movie's trying to say. This is not fair, this is not necessary, this is just it's a turnover in life. It's like we're going from one era to another era where this is no longer necessary, but how do we redefine it? How do we actually make it so that the world doesn't stink? For all these people who are effectively, they have no other problems. They don't have financial problems. They don't have religious problems. They don't have, massive social problems, whatever. It's just, everybody is set. They're good to go. Life could be good. And it's not. And then there's a reunion between Jerry and his dad, which is very nice because I actually liked the dad character. He was sweet. And I also liked her mom. They're all lovely people, and they were trying to give them the right advice for different reasons, and that's all made fairly clear in the film. And then there's a speech when Jerry comes to Emily, and I don't have a quote from the speech that he holds, but he's basically saying, "I'm going to university. Would you please write? Because I'll write back twice a day." And I was like, And there you can see a little bit of that Arthur Hiller, can he deliver on the romance in this movie? Because it's difficult. It's not even love story style romance. Love story there's a lot of joy in love story, and this is just like the joy gets sucked out super quick. And they did spend time on actually telling us about the character. You know, Jerry is an introverted, gentle, calm guy. He only goes out to these parties because his friend, cousin, whoever this boy is, just wants to go to these places. So he just stays there and he helps clean up and stuff. It's like, ah, you know. So he's sweet. And you see that in Love Story as well. In Love Story, it's about the two characters. It's about how, you know, making us like and fall in love with these two characters. And then, because we already know she's going to die from the very first line, we know she's going to die. So it's not a surprise. But it's like, why do we want to watch it? Well, because it's filmed so perfectly. Yeah, I think it's well done. The New York Times did not like it. Ha ha ha. I'm not surprised.
In 57.
In 57, the New York Times says the pace is slow, the writing uninspired, and the approach to the issue is often naive and repetitious. Repetitious. Yeah. Well, it is repetitious because there's a wall's been placed in front of them that doesn't need to be there. But nobody understands yet that the wall doesn't need to be there. So how do we take the wall away? Until that wall is away, you're going to bang at it from every single side, and everybody's going to be banging at that very same wall. So yeah, it's repetitious. But slow and repetitious are not the same thing. It's actually saying, this movie is saying, even if you want to do the right thing, but please define the right thing. Why is the right thing a right thing? Please redefine it. And it never can get to the point of actually saying that, because I think of the Hays Code. Because effectively in 1957 people were already wanting to say, this is out of date. This is not now. This is a different generation in a different economy. And youth culture was new. It didn't exist until probably 1950. So the whole, it has a bit of an Elvis Presley movie feel about it. That's correct, because Elvis Presley movies didn't exist until before that either, because that's youth culture. Youth culture means that they had money to spend, the middle classes at any rate. They didn't have to work after school to make ends meet at home. Their money they made, teenagers made, didn't go into the household budget. They didn't have to work at home in order to keep the household going, like the cooking and the cleaning and the whatnot. So yeah, it's... but at the same time, that means worlds are opening up, and every kid of at least, not stricken poverty has a shot at going to college. So it would be a crying shame to waste that. So yeah, that's a whole lot of opinions. I'm not sure what they wanted.
Does it end well?
Yeah, because he asks her to write. And she's like, I would love that. It's like the pressure's taken off. And I'm thinking, okay, then next year they're going to school. It's going to be 58. And in 2 years, the pill's going to come in. And when she goes to university, she will be told by other girls, there is such a thing as condoms. He will go to university and he will be told by other guys, there is such a thing as condoms. This problem has been solved. But they're not likely to go to the same school, because he was going to go to Caltech, and I don't think she's going to go... she might. That's stuff that they can do at any time, change schools, I guess. So I guess it needs a sequel. Whatever happened to Jerry and Emily? That'd be interesting. The Careless Years cinematic universe. Maybe Hallmark could make a sequel, a happy sequel. That'd be nice. Arthur Hiller, yeah, he did his best. I would like to mention Natalie Trundy as Emily. That you probably don't know her of much of anything. She apparently had a lot of roles, very small roles in a lot of things. But she was in the Planet of the Apes multiple times. Many, many times. So, and I want to say of Arthur Hiller, even though I'm probably going to do love stories somewhere along the line, but one notable thing about Arthur Hiller is he was married to his wife for 68 years. So I'm good with him making this movie.
He can talk about love.
Yeah. It's not... it's from a good heart. And that is in it. The movie really surprised me because I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be fluff piece. No. This is actually going to be about sex. Okay. And they're taking it seriously. Okay. So for that, I would say, yes, watch it. And there's not terribly a lot of other reasons to watch this movie. So I figured I'd watch it for you.
How does it look nice?
And it is beautifully filmed. It's black and white. It's there's a lot of beach scenes and a lot of A-line dresses and everybody. And there's a couple of when mother and daughter are trying on new dresses, they make a point of they select a dress for her that makes her look a little bit more grown up. And then the mother says, "Oh, I would like to put it on." And then it's a beautiful dress, by the way. So here, if we manage to get a screenshot of that. And then the mother tries to dress on and is like, oh, no, it makes me look younger. And I think that is literally the 1950s ideal of the mom being able to wear the same A-line dress that the teenage daughter can wear. You know, it's saying a lot about what they thought mothers should want. I mean, these mothers were young. They did get married at 18. They had a baby at 19. So she is like with a 16-year-old. She's 34 years old. So why shouldn't she want to look like, a happening woman? Earlier than this was the film with Rock Hudson and Jane Wyman. Where she's a 40-year-old, she's a mother, and she's just... This is about the woman, and she is a 40-year-old widow with a 22-year-old son, I think, and a 20-year-old daughter. The son is, I don't know if he's already working. The girl is in university, and basically they're telling her to just sit buy a television and sit behind the geraniums, as we say in Dutch. That's not a word. They sit at home at the white picket fence. This is the quintessential white picket fence movie. Sit at home and not have relationship with the gardener, who is a 35-year-old and is a bachelor single and very nice. And they just want to have a lovely... She's 40, he's 35. What's the scandal? And
they both have 50 more years to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with getting married so young and being in the modern era where you have a few children. They all go to university. And in her case, her husband died. So she's like, I'm all alone now. What, she needs to just literally watch TV 24/7? No. So there's also a very good scene with the A-line dress, with a very red A-line dress in that movie. And it's the same point. Only then from the perspective of, hey, she should be able to still have a life. But I will do that movie at some other point because I love that movie. I would say they made some interesting points about the Great Depression, and they made and why people are acting the way they do, and they have not made the point about the condom. That's mine. I'm like, you need a condom. I wrote it down here. Condom, please. And that would just have solved everything.
Don't put a ring on it, put a condom on it.
Yeah. And you also are telling kids to lie. These kids did not lie to their parents, and still it wasn't good enough. And you're basically saying, if you want to have sex, you better just lie about it. I would rather that the kids just come to the parents and say, can you help me, be safe about going about my social life. But, that is a discussion. And that's not exactly what this channel is for, but I think that's what this movie is trying to start up. So it is a very forward-thinking movie, but it's for us now. It's like, wow, that is...
It's a window into 57.
Yeah, that they're seriously doing this way. Because I would have expected from the 30s, but not from 57. But what do I know about 57? You know, it's a very narrow-minded era. So yeah, that is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.